Hello, welcome, and we're another Monday episode of Addiction Recovery. Hope, capital H, capital O, capital P, capital E. We want to spread hope and resources. And I have a wonderful guest today, and we've just been chatting for the last 20 minutes about life and where both of us have been, and where even wifey's in here, and her sponsor, Gigi, her sponsor's in here. And we're having a good time. We've had good conversations, and we all get each other. That's one thing about addicts. They get each other. They understand it. You just have an immediate bond. So I'm going to introduce you to Gigi Reed. She actually works in the recovery industry. She's in the administrative side of it, and she helps a lot of people. She has a wonderful story, and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to listen to her because I've watched videos on her, and she truly has a wonderful story, but I might butt in a little bit. So,
please do.
welcome, Gigi.
Okay.
Tell us where you've been.
Thank you. Well, this is weird.
Yeah, it is, huh?
Okay. So where do you want me to start?
Start wherever.
Beginning.
Yeah. If you want to trace it back to when you were younger.
Okay. So I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. Not from Utah. Did not grow up here.
You can tell by your accent.
Yeah.
Utah.
It's totally there, Utah.
Utah.
And I grew up there. I grew up in the LDS faith. Believe it or not, there's LDS outside of Utah. And addiction ran in my family. It did. It always has. It was always a part of my family's story. Not my mom, but it ran on my dad's side for sure. I remember trying my first drink at 8 years old, and it was good. Yeah. It was super good to me. And that kind of just spiraled throughout the years. Through my teen years, before I found pills, I was struggling with some weight issues, taking diet pills and cutting and all those things that come kind of before the drugs. And sometimes they linger after, because they did for me a little bit.
That's such a good point, because that's where a lot of people start.
Yeah.
If people, when they have a little bit overweight and they hear that they could try this thing and they'll slim up, and then they think, but then when I get slim, I won't, then I'll quit taking it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And, and at that time, some abuse was happening to me. And I was actually pretty slender and really athletic. I played field hockey. And I remember just constantly feeling insecure because of that sexual abuse that was going on. And my mom didn't know about it, and I wasn't telling anyone about it. And I found pills in high school. All my friends were getting into like the Percocets, and I'm 30, so that was kind of like when it was just hitting the scene big time.
Right.
And so I remember one of my friends saying, "Look what my parents have in the cabinet," and they said, "This is what this will do to you." And I remember not even hesitating, and I used it for the first time, and that just spiraled this addiction into opiates for a long time, and it eventually evolved into a heroin and crack cocaine addiction for me. Yeah. I stopped playing sports. I stopped going to church. I was the mean girl, and that's not who I am, but that's what drugs did to me.
They change you.
Yeah, totally. And so just going on through the years, it took me to lots of dark places. I mean, I'm a girl from the suburbs, and I chose to go into the darkest parts of the inner city. And I made that choice in my addiction without even hesitation. It was I turned 20 years old and I was out. I didn't want to come back to the suburbs. I couldn't have my resources there readily.
Right.
So I was out there, and I got involved in the sex trade pretty big. And it started slow. It started just maybe with dealers and to kind of get my way on things. And then, it went on to like Backpage and Craigslist. And then it ended up with me just on the streets. And so where I'm from, like I said, Wilmington, Delaware, it's the city. It's not like you can't just go to one spot. It's the whole city. I mean, it's a plague there right now that's killing off an entire generation. And so there would be like a block that you could find heroin on, a block that you can find crack, and a block that you find women. Yeah. And it would go like that throughout the whole city. And And so I remember being stuck on this like 3-block radius because I thought that if I left that block, I would miss something. I would miss a sale, or I would miss a dealer. Or so I lived. I remember my mom, she would come, and my mom is the sweetest woman. And I remember she would come and find me, or at least search for me. She would pray. She said she would pray all night. Let me go find Gigi. And she said sometimes it would be 2 a.m. and I would go driving in these places where the corners are covered in dealers, covered in, all of that. And she would say, sometimes I would pray just to let me see you. And I would see you for one quick second and you would dart down an alley.
Yeah.
And she said, but I could go to sleep that night because
She knew you
I
were
saw
alive.
you. And she would pull up and talk to the dealers, talk to the guys that were hustling the women and say, have you seen Gigi? And they'd say, I haven't seen her, but I did today. She's doing okay.
Oh, that's
And so the
cool.
dealers would look out for my mom too.
Oh, everyone, all of us have good hearts.
Yeah. And through all those years, I found I found the 12-step program.
Yeah.
And, I would come in and out, and I would go to detox, and I was a frequent flyer. Or sometimes I would just detox at home and, just kick. It's not I think here it's kind of uncommon when you say that. Just kick cold turkey. People are like, how do you do that?
No, that's
how
what
do
I
you
did.
not go to jail and
That's what I
kick
did.
that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it wasn't uncommon to kick and survive it, And so I would do that, and I would go back to NA every time, and they would. I'm sorry, the 12-step fellowship. Please forgive me.
You're not giving anything away.
Yeah.
I think it's not a hidden thing.
And so I'd come back to the fellowship, and people would hug me and love me, and just always welcome me back. And
root for you.
Yeah. And so, although I have a couple different paths, I owe my recovery to my higher power and to a 12-step program.
Yeah.
It's there that I found someone to walk me through life, and that's my sponsor. And I have the 12 steps that are they're the key to my recovery, for me healing and
Yeah. I do the same.
Yeah.
I tell everyone I live my life numbers 1 through 12.
Yeah.
I'm not good at life, so when I get into whatever situation, if I'm crabby, I just go to whatever step I know I'm at, and I work the steps, and I get through that, and it helps me get through my life, and then I just try to do step 12 a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm currently on 4, and I am.
You're on 12 currently because you're here.
I know, that's right. Right. Yeah. And that is the cool thing, is even though we get to work them in an order, I think we were talking about this the other day, is when you start living your life right, you start slowly making amends as they need to happen. Even before you get to that step, you start being a pretty decent human being, as so long as you are continuing to work your recovery.
If you're doing them in the order you're supposed to, because you know what, the family members and everyone you're trying to make amends to, every time that you got in trouble, your first thing was, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. But that's not until step 8 and 9.
Yeah.
And so when we actually prove that we've changed it takes time.
Yeah.
And so by the time we get to steps 8, they're prepared because they see the light, they see the change, and they're like, I'm ready for her to come and apologize, or I'm ready to apologize to her because I think she's ready.
I think a lot of times the living amends starts way before
that's
you
what
even
Tammy
get to
always
that step.
says. Yeah.
We start preparing ourselves for these steps before we even get to them. And so even though I'm on step 4 and there's fear with step 4 and my goodness, all these things, and I'm prepared for step 4 because I've done 1, 2, and 3, and I have a God of my understanding, and so it's been really, really a beautiful process.
Yeah.
And so when I get to do it with someone that I trust.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing of sponsorship.
It is, and it is complete anonymity. I have never seen, and I'm sure it's happened, but I have never seen a relationship between a sponsor and a sponsee end up to where one of them told something about the other. I've never seen that in 6 years.
And I don't know, how. I'm sure that it does happen, but I do know that that we're imperfect people.
Sure.
And so my sponsor doesn't do that unless I give her permission, and she'll say, but you want to find someone that's you believe is going to
Hold
be
you.
trustworthy. Yeah.
And the steps tell you to do that.
Yeah.
Because it can be heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think picking someone that you really feel led to and that you trust them is a huge thing. That you trust them because they're going to be they're the keeper of all of your secrets.
Yeah.
You know, you get rid of them, now you're like, here's my bag.
And they got rid of their secrets to someone else.
Yeah,
though,
but
so
you know what?
cool.
They have their own higher power and they're able to, to work this program too. And it's just this thing that just keeps giving and giving and giving.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
There's a light in it that really anyone out there that's struggling or anyone that has a family member, there's hope.
Yeah.
There's hope. If you can get them to the rooms, if you can get to the rooms, you'll find your group and you will be supported and you will understand that you're not alone.
Yeah.
There's others that feel, I always thought, like Heston always thought, no one understands me. No one knows how I feel. I'm just different. So I'm not going to open up to no one. I'm not telling anyone. And then I got to the meetings and I'm like, wait, they understand me because they think the same thing as me because they just said it. And this one over here said the same thing. And this one, I feel like I just said the words that came out of that one's mouth. And so then I realized I'm not different and I'm not, I'm actually worth it. Yeah. And it is a beautiful process.
Absolutely. When I first moved here, I felt myself separating myself. I would say things like, they're doing it wrong here. Everyone's too nice. You need to be rough and tough. Shut up, sit down. If we want to learn how to use, we'll ask you. Those kind of things that they say on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And so when I got you laughing at
me.
They
call them old timers.
So my sponsor would say to me, just listen. Just listen, and there's going to be a time where you can start your own thing, your own meeting, and you can do it the way you want. But for now, you need to listen.
Yeah, I love that.
And so I did. I separated myself. I kept feeling like this. I wasn't hearing people talk about working in the sex trade. I wasn't hearing it. I know that it goes on, and I know
more common than anything.
I know that people, have done things for their drug. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't hearing it. And I remember back home, you hear it. It's just common that people are sharing and talking about it. And I remember feeling like this, talking about it. I remember feeling like I was this dirty girl with all these blemishes all over me. And through recovery, I have looked at the similarities rather than the differences. And so when I listen to the similarities of my story with others, I'm able to relate to them. And I think that that's, when I moved out here, I had like a slight hiccup before coming here. And it had skewed my thinking. And so I was back to that girl that had never been in recovery before. And so it takes time to learn to stop separating yourself, to know your worth, like you said, that you are worth it, you know? And so I don't know, I just kept putting one foot in front of the next, and I would get one job and the next job. And then now I get to be in a business where we get to help tons of people recover. Absolutely. And I get to be a part of that. Yeah. And that's pretty amazing.
I love to see when addicts end up in the recovery world, the recovery world, giving back, and that to me says that's where their passion is, because they got help. There's not enough money in the world. You guys don't get paid enough to do what you do, but you do it because you love people and you want to help someone else because the way you were helped.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what I do. And, I didn't know that I would love working in administration. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. I kind of thought that I always needed to be on the front line, and because I love that. I do. But through like levels of acceptance, I realized how important administration is in a business. And because without administration, we wouldn't have the things that we have. And so I've been able to like genuinely find such a love for what I do.
Yeah.
And it's been cool. And it's introduced me to the Recovery Day committee. And I got to be on that, which was really a fun thing last year. And
is the golf one?
No.
I went golfing on one of those.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, was it part of the conference
that
they
it was
went
part
and
of
did?
the Recovery Days.
Yeah, it's probably part of the conference because they branch off and do a bunch of things during that week.
Yeah.
So this is the fair, the Recovery Day fair. Have you ever been?
No.
Okay,
I
so
need to.
okay, so we'll get you hooked up.
Okay.
So you can come out next year. It's super cool.
And then I can tell everyone else about it.
Yeah.
Like I do.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I wanted to tell you when you were talking. Gigi, I think it is uncommon for people. But just like with addictions nowadays, as opposed to 15, 20 years ago, everyone's family said, don't talk about it. Don't tell anyone that our son or our husband or our wife is struggling with this. We keep it a secret. This is our problem. But over the years, it's okay to open up.
Yeah.
And for you opening up and being willing, you're opening a door for someone that's listening, that's been right where you are, but they're so scared they just don't want to say it. But then you know what? They're going to be brave enough because you are brave enough, and they're going to say something that's going to help someone else.
Yeah, I always post things, and I'll hashtag not my child, because I realize that when you share these things, you're lowering that kind of stigma and shame that comes with it all. Yep. And all those people that are saying not my child are reading those articles and things saying that is my child, you know? Right. I know for my mom growing up LDS, it was hard for her. She has 3 children out of 4 that are
you're fine.
3 out of 4 that are
addicts.
Have struggled, have had our struggles. And I know that my mom has just always been just so strong. She has. And through it all, she's survived miraculously because we put her through a lot.
Yeah.
But she has become like this advocate for mothers, especially in the LDS faith, she's just a rock. She is just a rock. And she's helped so many moms just kind of navigate through, through their children and loving them and not giving up hope. My mom never gave up hope on me or my husband, because my husband struggled for years after getting baptized, and we got married. Just recently got sealed in the temple, which was pretty cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up too.
Yeah.
Because, that if that will bring hope to anyone out there, that you can be, it doesn't matter where you've been. There's a line that's said in the LDS 12-step program. That's my favorite line in the whole thing. It's said in step 4. And it says, because of the love of your Savior, you do not have to be what you have been or who you have been. Love and grace of the Savior, you do not have to be who you have been. And you can absolutely pick who you want to be. You can find a good, loving spouse. I did it. You did it. Yeah, and you can enter places that people would have ever thought you would be, and you can do so with a clean heart and a clean conscience. And anyone could change.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier, never say never.
Yeah. I guess growing up, I had this mental checklist of things that you had to be if you were ever going to be sealed, and I think I carried that way into adult life. And I remember I've had a couple really just awesome bishops behind me all these years. They've kind of helped me clear up my wreckage, and my conscience. And so even though I had that hiccup and my husband had those hiccups, it was okay because our work had already kind of started leading us to where we wanted to be. And we always knew that we had this focus of where we wanted to go. And so anyway, I just think that we put limitations on ourselves sometimes, because if anyone should be like this black mark, I would have thought it would have been me.
Yeah, I think my wife saw the same thing. That's how she felt when I asked her when we were just friends. I was like, "Why aren't you going to the temple?" She's like, "Well, I drink coffee." I'm like, "So what?" So figure it out. And she's like, "Well, maybe I can," and she did.
Yeah, I think that and I guess that's my message with that is in recovery we get to pick our own path. We get to say what we want to believe, and we get to own that, and I know that there's always going to be people that are critical of your beliefs.
Yeah.
Pick your tribe. Well,
and what we were talking about earlier, we don't care. We don't care how you get sober, who your God is. We don't care as long as you get sober.
My sponsor and I, we have polar opposite beliefs, and she has backed me up 100%. When I walked out of that temple, she was standing there with tears in her eyes.
Yeah.
And that's the gift of recovery. That really is the gift of recovery, is genuinely being happy for those that you are walking this journey with. And so, I really think just not limiting yourself is so huge. Just taking that step. Why would the girl that was stuck on Broome Street, right? That's the block I hustled on. Yeah. Why would that girl ever see herself working in administration in a behavioral health center? It never clicked. But when I got into recovery, I trusted when my sponsor said, you can do this. You need to apply.
And that's what it is. You have to put your trust into someone else because your ways don't work.
Yeah.
And so you grab onto their coattails, and if you'll do what they say and string along, like you said, one day at a time, one step at a time, all of a sudden a year's gone by.
Yeah. A lot of times I hear her saying, you have a higher power, right? Okay. Like all the time she says that to me when I'm like running on self-will and a lack of trust and faith. She goes, you have a higher power, right, Gigi? And she's not so nice anymore. She was really nice in the beginning. Now she's like, she's firm with me. Yeah. She's East Coast. She's 302.
She said it. They're both in here crying and laughing, and I love it.
And even before the interview started, we had tears running, and it was a beautiful conversation. So,
Gigi, when I saw your video and I shared it, and I asked you if I could share it first.
Yeah.
My favorite part is what you said at the end, and I think the guy asked you a question. If you had any advice for someone, what would it be?
And that would have been to let go of resentments. You know, I have a lot of people I could be really, really angry at. And there may still be something deep down. That's the beauty through step work is like you may have forgiven someone, but there may still be a lingering piece. And so we get to continue to forgive and we get to continue to do those things. But, you know, going through these changes in my life, in recovery, I've gained friends, I've lost friends, and I've realized that that being angry really only hurts you.
It does.
It really only hurts you, and ultimately it could be that piece that takes you back out.
Yeah.
And
it's almost a sickness when they hold on to those, like they can't let it go, and it's just like if you could just let it go, you've got such a world out there that you will enjoy. But I've had
so many people do so many bad things to me, and I've done so many bad things to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realize, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I to be this like, how dare you do this to me? How dare you do that to me? This victim constantly. Don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect. And I surely have this list I compile and have to put it down on paper and get it out.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do with step 4.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't run me. You know, I don't live every day saying, well, he abused me.
Yeah.
He's the reason that I've used.
Yeah.
It's not true.
That's oftentimes the addict out there. That's their reason. And so they hang on to that. And every day they're thinking, tomorrow I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, for me, it was tomorrow I'm going to quit. I'm going to get what I need today to get by. I'm going to use what I need today. And tomorrow I have every intention of quitting. And years went by.
Yeah.
And tomorrow always came, and I always had to get more. And years went by, and I still was doing the same thing. Tomorrow I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
But because I blame, like you said, I went to, people would die. My grandparents would die, and I would feel bad for myself. Mm-hmm. Look at me. Everyone look at me. And it was actually a happy experience because they were old, and I should have not had such hard feelings, but it gave me a reason to keep using, you know?
You know, I think about that. I think about like when my grandparents all passed, kind of within a couple years of each other. And I was out there using, my mom was coming out, finding me, bringing me rain boots when it was raining, bringing me a packed lunch, taking me to the Dominican restaurant right there on the block.
Yeah.
She you know, and give me a meal. And she would always send a little doggy bag for whatever boyfriend/pimp I had at the time, because she cared. She generally cared. But, you know, what was that you just said right before I started?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's why they call it dope. I forget. Oh, grandparents dying. Is that what wifey's saying? Grandparents
so
dying?
I remember. Thank you. So I remember during all that time that my grandparents died, my mom would come out and do all those things. And I remember sometimes my sister would let me come back if I had just gotten out of detox or something. And I came home and I remember my mom finding out, and I was just so self-centered. I think I had used at that point, but I was still staying there. And I was just so self-centered. I remember not being there for her at all. And now in recovery, I get to look back and like just say, like, I'm really sorry I didn't show up for you, because that must have been really hard for you. You know, it was hard for me, but it was really hard for you, you know, like.
Watching, well, you think, and I always thought, and we're going to go over a little bit, but I always thought that, why do they care? I'm only hurting myself. But we hurt so many people that we just don't even understand, but we're so selfish at that point. We really do think that we're only hurting ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to clean up the wreckage, like you said, and get straight with everyone around you and have a peaceful life. You can have a peaceful life and a loving life and do things that you never thought was possible, or you never even wanted to be possible, but all of a sudden it is possible and it's what you want.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
Gigi, I thank you so much for coming on.
You're
I wish we
welcome.
had an hour. We could talk all day.
Did we go?
Yeah, you rocked it. You did great. It goes by fast. But join us again next Monday for Addiction Recovery Hope and Resources. And Gigi, we'll have you on, and maybe with your sponsor, maybe she'll come on. Well, we already talked about that. She's coming. We'll figure it out.
Okay. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.